Breaking overnight, we're tracking the latest on a fire that broke out in the town of Montrose this morning.
And it's been 1 year since a workplace shooting here in Middleton. We are live at police headquarters with what officers learned on that day and what they want anyone working in a workplace to know.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on a Thursday morning. It is September 19th. And still not really feeling like September out
like
there.
July. Oh,
Even
yeah.
with the storms, they feel like some late summer storms. Granted, I guess we're still technically in summer, so.
We are for a couple of days, but normally by this time of the year, we're transitioning more towards fall-like weather, but not the case in 2019. Summer continues. It is an alert day for southern Wisconsin. We do have some showers and thunderstorms moving through the area. If you are west of Dane County, chances are you're already hearing that thunder. There is a potential for some pretty heavy rain across parts of the region that were hit particularly hard last week. Flash flood watches are in effect until noon for those 4 counties shaded in green. That's mainly areas west of Lone Rock this morning. Here's a look at the radar map. You can see that the shower and thunderstorm activity is pretty widespread across west central and southwestern Wisconsin this morning. It is slowly making its way towards the east and south. So we do have a chance for some of those showers to hold together long enough to make it into the Madison area yet this morning. Temperatures, though, already in the 60s, or I should say still in the 60s. We'll climb back to around 80 with pretty humid conditions today. The roads are dry here in Madison, but wet in southwestern Wisconsin, so keep that in mind. You're starting to see some brake lights show up on Stoughton Road, but no major delays just yet. Looks like travel on the interstate into Dane County from the north and south still looking good.
So we've officially dubbed this second summer, and we have our fingers crossed that that doesn't mean that we're skipping fall, right?
Oh, we do not want to skip fall. I think people would be very upset if that happens.
Can't miss the colors.
I know. I'm just looking forward to that and just not sweating for
Sweater
once.
weather?
Yeah, sweater
Yes.
weather.
Yeah.
Pumpkin spice. Thank you very much, Annie.
You're welcome.
We start this half hour with news breaking overnight into the Channel 3000 Alert Center. Farm equipment and around 200 bales of hay are a total loss after a fire broke out outside of Belleville early this morning. A passerby called in around 12:30 for a fire on a farm just off of County Highway A in the town of Montrose. Fire departments from multiple neighboring communities responded. The Dane County Sheriff's Office says the cause of the fire is still under investigation, but it isn't considered suspicious. No one was injured.
Also into the Channel 3000 Alert Center overnight, a family on the city's west side is waking up somewhere other than home this morning after an apartment fire. The call for that fire came in just before 10 on Russet Road. That's near the Madison Public Library's Meadow Ridge location. The family was the only unit affected by the fire. They are getting help this morning from the Red Cross to find a temporary place to stay. There's no word yet on the extent of the damage.
Today marks 1 year since an employee at a Middleton software company pulled out a gun and started shooting at his coworkers.
4 people were shot, but all of them survived and are now back at work. The gunman was shot and killed by police. Later, the investigation revealed the gunman couldn't legally buy a gun, but had purchased the pieces to build his own. In the year since the shooting, Paradigm has rebranded and moved into a renovated space on Deming Way.
The CEO of Paradigm released a statement ahead of the anniversary thanking first responders for their heroism. Nathan Herb says many employees are still recovering from the emotional wounds, but they won't let the shooting define who they are, and they've worked hard to recover in a meaningful way.
The officers and deputies who responded that day, meanwhile, have received national recognition for killing the gunman and preventing an even greater tragedy. But like Paradigm's employees, many of them are still dealing with the emotional impact.
I think to a lot of people it seems like that's something that happens in the big city or far away. But these have become so commonplace, and now they've happened here in the small city of Middleton. So I think that should be a wake-up call to us, that we need to be prepared for it.
There were employees that put tourniquets on fellow employees who saved lives, who went back and carried fellow employees out. Those were heroes.
Some emotional words from the Dane County Sheriff there. Tonight on News 3 Now at 10, you can hear more about the lessons learned from that Paradigm shooting as our Susan Simon sits down with 5 of the first responders who were first on the scene.
The Middleton police chief was one of those who responded to that scene.
The department learned a lot that day. Our Christina Laurie is at the Middleton Police Department with Chief Falk this morning with more on that. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Leah and Josh. You know that saying, you never know how tough you are until being tough is the only choice you have? Well, That's something that officers here at the Middleton Police Headquarters certainly proved that day. They are tough. Officer and Chief Officer Chuck Folk back with us this morning. Thanks for talking to us.
Sure.
So that day, you learned just how well thought out your policies are. Now you're going across the state teaching other departments. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we have been invited to many training sessions in the past year to not only show what we did right, but also what we did wrong or what we could have done better. A big part of that training is also the emotional, traumatic effect that an event like this takes on officers. And we think getting that information across to police officers really helps in their well-being and their officer wellness because it has been very traumatic for many of our staff, many on the Sheriff's Department, the deputies that went in there, obviously for the Paradigm staff. But we're trying to normalize those types of feelings, especially in law enforcement, so that people realize that they are normal and that they need to talk about it and get assistance if need be and take care of themselves and their fellow colleagues.
Addressing mental health is so important. How are you facilitating that here in the Middleton Police Department?
We did have policies in effect that just kind of took place right away that day. The first thing we did was to get our involved officers out of that building as quickly as we could. Obviously, we couldn't do it right away. They still had things to do, but when we could, we got them out. We paired them with what we call buddy officers, brought them back to the police department, and then we started a series of events. We used our EAP. We have officers that are trained to specially work with other officers that have been in traumatic events. We also wanted to take care of our families. This was very traumatic for our families. So we did critical incident debriefings not only for the officers involved, but for all of our employees and all of our families. And it's an ongoing process. It's we've sent people to trauma specialists, and it didn't end that week or that month. Even as close as a couple days ago, we were sending people to trauma psychologists, and we will in the future, just so that this is something that they can get through.
That's such an important thing for people to know, that it's not just one day, it's something that people are going to have to live with for the rest of their lives. Thank you so much for talking to us, and we're going to check back in with Officer Folk ahead at 6:30, but for now I'll send it back to you, Josh and Leah.
Christina Laurie reporting live for us. Thank you very much, Christina.
Right now, a group of people are pushing for what they call common sense gun laws here in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Coalition for Gun Safety rallied on the steps of the Capitol Wednesday to call for those changes. There are a few proposals working through the state legislature, including one introduced by Representative Melissa Sargent that would require universal background checks on firearm purchases. Those that spoke in support of the bill say the laws need to change, while opponents say there instead should be a focus on mental health. Doctors at the event said their push includes that discussion as well.
When I have a patient that's depressed, I ask them if they have and own a gun, if they have access to a gun. And we talk about safe storage. We talk about what are some of the options to make sure you can stay safe, because it is the most lethal option.
Another bill that has been introduced would eliminate sales tax on gun safes. Both have had a long process ahead, so it will take some time before we could see either of those laws passed.
Trending now, a powerful new public service announcement is pretty tough to watch, which is exactly the point.
It starts out like any other back-to-school commercial, but it's clearly not as students start running through the halls and gunshots ring out.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Just chilling.
Yeah, that PSA is made by a nonprofit founded by families of those killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown. Their goal was to shock people. They say the PSA is divorced from politics and that keeping kids safe is not a partisan issue.
Around the state, loved ones say they will continue to seek justice in a deadly police shooting. The Racine County District Attorney says a Mount Pleasant police sergeant will not face charges for the death of 18-year-old Tyrese West since he was acting in self-defense. West was killed in June. Police say he was riding his bike without a light and refused to stop. They say he was armed and that deadly force was the last option. Hundreds of ralliers stood on the steps of the Racine County Courthouse this week, demanding justice and supporting the teen's hurting family.
I'm just a black male from Racine, Wisconsin, and I'm standing up for what's right, which was a malicious murder of a young black African male.
I came here to support the family of Tyrese and support the citizens of Racine for justice.
The family says the fight isn't over. They plan on taking the case to federal court. Meanwhile, Sergeant Eric Giese is expected to return to full duty with the Mount Pleasant Police Department.
The Kenosha County School District is reversing its decision and will now allow plans for a memorial to honor a classmate who was killed in May. 16-year-old Kaylee Jugo was shot and killed in her home, and her ex-boyfriend, Martise Fuller, is facing life in prison for that shooting. The district had originally canceled the memorial on Tuesday, saying that some people want to show support for Fuller, and if they allowed one, they'd have to support both. Yesterday, the school district reversed its decision. The district didn't say why they changed the decision, but the opportunity to honor their friend is something students are looking forward to.
I haven't had that much time to remember her and talk about it, but this game really is going to show and bring back everything of her, so I'm very happy.
The ceremony will happen at tomorrow's football game, where fans will be wearing blue in support of the Juga family. There will also be a special cheer routine and pictures of Kaylee on the field.
We are learning more about why the former Fall River superintendent was abruptly fired earlier this month. Madison.com is reporting the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction is investigating Superintendent Michael Garrow for an alleged incident involving a student outside of the district. The school board president says they are not releasing the details of a letter about the DPI investigation, since it includes information about that student involved.
More local news now. One person is dead and 2 others are recovering from injuries after a 3-car crash on Madison's west side. It happened around 1 yesterday afternoon on Mineral Point Road at Commerce Drive near Target. Fire department officials say they worked to free someone who was pinned and performed CPR, but weren't able to resuscitate then. An initial investigation shows that person seemed to have run a red light, causing the crash.
We have new information on a hit and run that left 1 man dead on the city's north side. Police say they found the car involved in that crash. It was actually an SUV and not a sedan like they'd originally thought. There is still no one in custody. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers.
6:12 right now, and still ahead for us on a Thursday morning. Dane County has the highest percentage of binge drinkers in the state of Wisconsin. Dr. Mara is in studio to discuss the dangers and health complications heavy drinking brings.
But first, Taddie's tracking some scattered thunderstorms moving into the last official weekend of summer. She's going to have the latest. That's up next on News 3 Now this morning.
This
Good morning from the patio. Dry still here in Madison, but you might want to keep that umbrella close to you this afternoon because some rain is in the forecast. Let's take a look. Today is an alert day for southern Wisconsin, especially areas west of Madison, where some pretty heavy rain has fallen overnight. 1 to 2 inches of rain is possible, and that area of our part of the state has been hit particularly hard with heavy rain just within the last couple of weeks. So a flash flood watch is in effect until noon for southwestern Wisconsin. You can see those 4 counties shaded in green: Grant, Richland, Crawford, and Vernon counties. Now, here's a look at what we've already received overnight. Again, from Dane County and points to the west, there has been some rain activity overnight, and some spots radar is indicating picking up over 1 inch overnight. Again, it's not very widespread, that heavy rain for us, but there are a few spots that have been pretty wet all night. Now this morning, the rain is pretty widespread at this hour. Those showers and thunderstorms continue to rumble across the area. No severe weather. Again, the biggest threat would be the heavy rain. There are some pretty strong storms producing heavy rain in northeastern Iowa right now, just west of Prairie du Chien. All this activity is expected to eventually move to the south and east, so there is a potential that will get wet here in Madison. Take a look at our temperatures. On either side of this band of rain, we are on the warm side of things. Temperatures near 70 right now here in Madison, whereas in parts of northwestern Wisconsin, like Superior, it's 56, and much of central and northern Minnesota is pretty comfortable right now as well. But with those warm temperatures come higher humidity as well. Dew points are well into the 60s in many locations, and unfortunately, that's where we'll stay today, maybe even creeping into the 70s for a few hours this afternoon. So it will feel very humid. Take a look at your future track forecast model. Again, movement on these showers and thunderstorms eventually to the south and east. So by the time we hit the lunch hour, there may be some rain moving into Dane County and Madison. It will weaken as it tracks to the east. Parts of southeastern Wisconsin may not get any rain through the day. Highs will still be near 80 today and will stay pretty mild overnight tonight. Here's a look at the potential then for rain returning, though, on Friday. Our additional precipitation on top of what has already fallen is going to be highly variable, but there are some spots that could pick up some pretty heavy rain. Your extended forecast keeps that chance for rain right through the weekend. The next best chance for widespread rain across the area will be later Saturday into Sunday morning. That next system is a little stronger, and it will break the humidity for the region. Now let's get a look at those first alert traffic maps. This is the time we send it over to Jason Stone for all the details. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. No issues on the Beltline so far this morning. All lanes are at the posted speed limit. Brake lights on Verona Road at Highway PD and near Williamsburg Way. All other routes into Madison and around Dane County are clear for travel. And drivers are moving around the Isthmus and campus on vacant streets. With your first alert traffic, I am Jason Stone.
Jason and Hattie, thank you very much. 6:19 is your time right now. A new survey finds the average Wisconsinite drinks more than 33.5 gallons of beer every year. And Dane County is one of the worst in the state when it comes to binge drinking.
That's just a stunning
Wow.
statistic. Here to talk about it is Dr. Mandira Mehra from SSM Health. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Great to be here. Good morning.
Now, this study that we're looking at does focus on college students, but this is a problem really with the entire state.
You're right, not just the state. I mean, it really is a problem nationwide.
Sure.
And it, of course, is a problem in the younger as well as the older population. So this is a great study because it did hone in on that college age population. I know we were talking offline about this weekend's a game day, game weekend, and that's the case, you know, across a lot of college campuses in America. And game days are often synonymous with waking up pretty early, starting the pre-gaming, drinking kind of through the game, and then partying afterwards, depending on how your team does. So this is a very timely article that has come out. It really points out the issues with binge drinking and the dangers with binge drinking. One of the most important things this points out is what is binge drinking. So first of all, it's defined as about 4 to 5 drinks. For women, more than 4. For men, more than 5 drinks at a time. Now, often the average college-age student will drink 4 to 5 times that. And so you think about the definition and then what's actually happening. That points out also that about 2,000 kids every year do die from alcohol-induced issues, like binge drinking, every year. And it's something that's kind of swept under the rug or not talked about very often. Colleges do have policies in place, but oftentimes have difficulty enforcing that. The reason this is also important is this affects, of course, the pressures for younger children. A lot of college-age kids were interviewed and said it's routine for them to feel the pressure that to kind of fit in with their peers, they feel the pressure that they need to drink more and to be able to hold their alcohol. And they often said, well, the girls or the boys that were able to drink more were the cooler kids. And so there's that social pressure to really fit in. This also affects the teenage population. Many people have shared stories. We may have stories that even as teenagers, if you were the cool kid, you were invited to the cool parties because you drank. And if you didn't drink, you were not invited to the parties. Why should I take Mandira? She's not super cool. She's not going to drink with us. And then so you feel sort of the opposite pressure. This is super important because the teenage brain is still developing. In adolescence, think of it as the wiring still forming. We need that brain to be sharp and optimized. But when it's not optimized, this can lead to many different things, both socially, mentally, and physically. Socially and psychologically, if you drink before the age of 13, 14, that actually leads to a statistic that you may be more likely by 4 to 5 times to have a drinking problem later. Compared to their peers that waited till about 21. The other issue is that socially, that means something very different for that developing mind. So we really want to encourage people to optimize their brain, to not really fall prey to those social pressures, and then blacking out. What is blacking out? Blacking out has also become sort of synonymous with being cool and, oh, I blacked out last Saturday, that kind of thing. Blacking out is defined as a period of amnesia during which you still were able to do some function. Brush your teeth, may it be, maybe have bad decision making, maybe even criminal activity. And so the problem with blacking out is you are no longer aware of what's happening. You have amnesia from the event. And so we want to encourage that blacking out in itself is a very dangerous thing. So blacking out, binge drinking, college-age kids, high priority here, but of course it can affect all of us, younger or older.
All right. Dr. Mara, as always, helping us out. Thank you very much.
Great to be here.
Good to see you. Still ahead this morning, there is a new school cell phone policy down in Rock County. We'll tell you how teachers say it is making a big difference in the classroom. That's up next.
But first, we are tracking some rain and storms this morning, and Hattie has a look at if it's going to affect the kids at the bus stop. You're watching News 3 Now this morning. We thank you for that, and we will be right back.
Welcome back. 6:26 on your Thursday. Looking like a little bit of sun, a lot of sun making it through the clouds today.
Yeah, what a great shot here in Madison. Kind of an orange, peachy color to the sky. We don't have any rain just yet, but there is rain off to the west. Wanted to show you the sky camera shot from here at the station. This is our WISC-TV camera. Just as nice this morning as we look towards the sunrise. Kind of, though, that ominous red sky in morning. We do have an alert day in the forecast for today. Scattered showers and thunderstorms could produce some heavy rain. That has prompted that alert day for the potential for some flooding. Southwestern Wisconsin at greatest risk. They were hit hardest last week, so that flash flood watch is in effect until noon today. Here's a look at the radar map. Again, pretty wet west of Dane County this morning. We have lots of lightning strikes south of Prairie du Chien and between Prairie du Chien and Platteville this morning. Also some heavier thunderstorm activity up near Richland Center and Viroqua. All this activity is slowly going to work its way towards the south and east. So while it's dry right now in Madison, there's the potential to get wet. Dew points are going to be high. Another humid day, unfortunately. Those dew points creeping into the 70s for a few hours. So at the bus stop, you're going to likely need the rain gear in the morning and maybe even for the lunch hour. Might be an inside recess for some today with a few showers in the area. Rain should be diminishing as we head towards the afternoon. Highs will still be near 80 degrees. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Hattie. Our Coats for Kids drive has been going for less than 2 weeks, and we're already over 1,000 donations. Another 138 items donated in the last day has us up to about 1,070. We want to thank everybody who's helped us out so far. Just an incredible effort there. A reminder, it's not just coats we're looking for, but any type of winter outer gear. You have until Saturday, October 5th to drop off those jackets, hats, mittens, anything buried in your closet to Clinky Cleaners. They will clean those items for you before handing them off to the Community Action Coalition for distribution later in October. All right, educators in Edgerton say a change in cell phone policy appears to be already paying off.
At the beginning of the school year, a policy was put in place that didn't let students have access to their phones during class. They were still able to use them during lunch and between classes. Before the policy, teachers like Skylar Grunlock said they would regularly see those cell phones distracting students during class time, but now it's a different story.
I can see students more frequently working on their homework or asking questions because they're not so involved in their phones. And it kind of just gives me a sense of comfort knowing that, hey, the only thing that they're going to be distracted by are things that are in this room right now.
Edgerton High School's principal says feedback from teachers and parents has been positive and that other schools, even the Madison Area Technical College, have reached out to them with questions about implementing policies of their own.
I think we all could use a little time offline.
Yeah, and I think this is something that's obviously growing even more because more and more kids are getting cell phones these days. So.
We'll put down our phones for the rest of the show.
Are we going to, though? I've got mine right here.
We'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. We'll see what we can do.
All right, 6:29 right now. Still ahead for us. We've got the top 3 things you need to know this morning before you head out the door.
And this morning we are taking a look at how law enforcement has changed in the year since the shooting at Paradigm. That's coming up next on News 3 Now this morning.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning, folks, and thanks for staying with us on this Thursday, September 19th. Hattie, busy at work yet again, tracking an alert day today.
Yeah, a little wet across southern Wisconsin. We do have an alert day. We'll talk about all the details coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Hattie, thank you very much. Here are the top 3 things that you need to know this morning. A U.S. official tells CBS News the attack on Saudi Arabia's oil facilities was approved by Iran's supreme leader, but only on condition it will be carried out in a way where Iran could deny involvement. President Trump says he's planning on putting new sanctions on Iran. So far, he hasn't committed to a military response. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called the attack an act of war by Iran.
The second story we're following this morning, U.S. hostage negotiator Robert O'Brien will be President Trump's new national security advisor. This comes a week after the president fired John Bolton, citing disagreements on multiple issues. O'Brien was sent by Trump to help free U.S. rapper A$AP Rocky from Swedish prison earlier this year.
And rounding out the top 3 this morning, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is apologizing for a yearbook photo showing him wearing brown face makeup at a costume party in 2001. Time magazine posted the photo saying it was published in the yearbook from a private school in British Columbia where Trudeau worked as a teacher before entering politics. Trudeau said the photo of him as a character from Aladdin was taken at the school's annual dinner, which he said had an Arabian Nights theme.
Those are the top 3 things to know on your Thursday. Hattie's here now with a look at that alert day forecast. Hi, Hattie.
Good morning, Lee and Josh. You're right, it is an alert day for southern Wisconsin. We have showers and thunderstorms this morning, which may produce some flash flooding across parts of the area, especially southwestern Wisconsin. That was hit particularly hard last week with heavy rain. A flash flood watch is in effect for those counties shaded in green until noon today. Take a look on a wider view of what's happening across the state. We have a line of showers and thunderstorms bisecting the state from Green Bay, or just north of Green Bay, down towards La Crosse and Platteville this morning. It will all eventually sink to the south and east, but the movement in that direction is very slow this morning. So as you head out the door, grab that rain gear, at least the umbrella. You may need it at times this morning into the early afternoon hours. Temperatures, though, will still be on the warm side. With humid conditions, we should top near 80 degrees. Let's get a look at those traffic maps now. We'll see if anything has changed at this time. No major issues on the Beltline, though it looks like Highway 12 north of Middleton coming into town. Might be a few brake lights showing up there. No issues downtown just yet. Travel as you head into Madison, a little bit slower on northbound 151. And that's your first alert traffic.
Hattie, thank you. 6:35 right now. Breaking overnight into the Channel 3000 Alert Center. Farm equipment and around 200 bales of hay are a total loss after a fire broke out outside of Belleville early this morning. A passerby called in around 12:30 for a fire on a farm just off County Highway A in the town of Montrose. Fire departments from multiple neighboring communities responded. The Dane County Sheriff's Office says the cause of the fire is still under investigation, but it isn't considered suspicious. No one was injured. Today marks 1 year since an employee at a Middleton software company pulled out a gun and started shooting at his coworkers.
4 people were shot, but all of them survived and are now back at work. The gunman was shot and killed by police before he could shoot anyone else. Later, the investigation revealed the gunman couldn't legally buy a gun, but he had purchased the pieces to build his own. In the year since the shooting, Paradigm has rebranded and moved into a renovated space on Deming Way. Paradigm says they've spent the past year working to move forward, and they aren't alone.
Middleton police and the other first responders who were on the scene that day say they're trying to do the same. Only on News 3 Now this morning, Christina Laurie is talking with Middleton's police chief, who's issuing a call to action for lawmakers this morning. Christina?
Josh and Leah, after that shooting, Officer Chuck Folk wrote a letter to the community saying that we cannot let this become the new normal. In a Facebook post this morning, you said you're mistaken. It has become the new normal and it's simply unacceptable. So what next? What do you want lawmakers to do?
That's the one thing I would say I've been really disappointed with in the last year is just the increasing frequency of these active shooter, violent killer incidents. August, I think, kind of highlighted, just how terrible that these incidents are all over our country. And I do think there are some common sense gun laws that can be enacted, and I am very supportive of those.
Like what?
Well, universal background checks, I think, are a no-brainer. There's just no reason that people should be able to use loopholes to obtain firearms if they are not legally able to do so. And in this case, the shooter built his own guns because he was not legally able to purchase firearms. But doing background checks on for gun shows and buying a firearm from your neighbor or something, they should have the same scrutiny as buying from a federally licensed firearm dealer. I would also like to see red flag laws, and the devil's in the detail with those. I understand some of the concerns about them. I think that that's going to be introduced into our legislation soon here in Wisconsin. And I would like to see what the details are of that and have a vigorous debate, but it's my understanding it may not even be brought to the floor, and that's very frustrating to me.
What would you say to any lawmakers who weren't there the day of the shooting and might disagree with you?
Well, I get that people disagree, and it's a really emotional issue. We're not talking about Second Amendment rights here. We're not talking about the right to own a firearm. We're talking about some common sense constraints on people that shouldn't have firearms. For people to say that some of these proposals would not work, I would simply say that nothing is working right now. The status quo is not acceptable, and we need to do something about it.
Thank you very much for
Thank
talking
you.
to us this morning.
Yep.
Thank you for your response that day, and thank you for your 38 years of service to Middleton. Officer Folk is retiring at the end of the calendar year. Josh and Leah.
Thank you.
All right, Christina Laurie with the exclusive interview this morning. Christina, thank you very much.
6:38 your time now. Coming up in the morning sprint, we are going to hear how Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway wants to make your commute move a little faster.
And if you're not too scared, Leah, a contest is offering a lucky winner a chance to make some money watching some horror movies.
Absolutely not, no.
Keep watching News 3 Now this morning. I think so.
right, so we always ask you to share your morning with us. This is a beautiful, beautiful photo by Shannon. This is actually, as you can imagine, out by Highland. It's in Muscadet.
That is my start of the morning right there. I would love that.
Isn't that stunning? Boy, I am biased, you know it, but Southwest Wisconsin, just the most beautiful place in the world.
Which hometown is it today?
Muscadet. Close enough to Highland. We're going to count it.
If you've got a photo that you'd like to share of your morning, please do so on our social media pages. All right, trending this morning, if you're a fan of horror movies, US Dish has a competition just for you.
It's not for me. The company is looking to hire someone to watch 13 movies based on the works of Stephen King. For this task, US Dish will equip you with a survival kit as candidates document their experience. The lucky movie buff who wins this job will get $1,300, their own copies of all 13 movies, and get this, a Fitbit to track your heartbeat as you watch the horror flicks.
I can only imagine mine.
What do you think?
The racing. I mean, I would do it, but I would need you to hold my hand through it.
I would not be able to do it. When I was a kid, I watched The Blair Witch Project, and I have been scarred since. I cannot watch scary movies.
So I love scary movies, but I always tell whoever's watching with me that they're going to have to hold me no matter who they are because I can't do it by myself. So.
Yeah, you can't get through a flu shot. I can't imagine you getting
Yeah, I don't do it very well by myself. So.
Oh, buddy. Hey,
I
at least
try.
you're willing to do it.
I put the effort in. That's all that matters.
That's why we love you.
All right. Well, today is an alert day for southern Wisconsin with storms back in the forecast. Hattie's monitoring some flooding concerns in the southwest part of the state. She'll have the latest right after this.
But first, if you have a little kiddo turning 3 soon, we would love to feature them on News 3 Now this morning. Send their picture in to that address right there. Thanks so much for watching. We're back after this.
Look.
Good morning from the News 3 Now First Alert Weather Center. We do have a flash flood warning that's in effect for parts of Grant County. You can see the parts shaded in green, which is most of Grant County until 11:45. Radar has indicated that about 2 inches of rain has fallen in some spots, with another couple of inches on the way. So flash flooding may begin shortly. Definitely, if you see a road that is covered in water, turn around, don't drown. A flash flood watch is in effect for all of southwestern Wisconsin, areas west of Lone Rock, until noon today. Here's a look at the alert day again for the area. We have additional rain on the way, especially west of Dane County. So again, there are concerns for flooding. This is a part of the state that was hit particularly hard last week with heavy rain. So the ground is already saturated, and look at some of these rain totals estimated by the radar map, but anywhere from 1 to 3 inches estimated has fallen, and the rain continues to fall there. That's where we see some of the heaviest thunderstorm activity right now, just south of the Wisconsin River, headed towards the Platteville area. These showers and thunderstorms are part of a larger line that bisects the state from just north of Green Bay to about La Crosse and Platteville this morning, and then back into the Central Plains. It is a weak front that is sinking to the south, so I would expect this activity to slowly move to the south and east as we go through the rest of the morning into the early afternoon. As it gets a little bit further to the east, it will likely start to weaken. So our best chances for rain here are before lunchtime, especially in Madison, points to the west. As we enter the afternoon, we should get a little bit of a break in the precipitation. Our current temperatures out ahead of this front, it is quite mild. 68 here in Madison, still 70 in Platteville and Boscobel. Those areas are dealing with pretty high dew points as well. A dew point of 70 degrees in Platteville, 67 in Boscobel, whereas 61 here in Madison. Dew point trend through the day, probably not what you'd like to see though. Take a look at these numbers. Heading into the 70s, that is pretty humid for mid-September. Your future track forecast model showing you again this rain eventually moving to the south and east. So even by lunchtime, still potentially wet from Madison and points to the west. See it weakening as it tracks a little bit further to the east this afternoon. High temperatures though still right around 80 in many locations today. So another warm and humid day. Heading through the evening hours, just an outside chance for rain. Better chances for rain, though, developing overnight into Friday morning once again. So it may be a wet commute tomorrow morning. Additional rain through the day today into the overnight hours will be highly variable, but those highest amounts are expected to be west of Dane County. Here's a look at your extended forecast then. Highs remain in the 80s through Friday. We break the humidity, though, with a stronger system late Saturday into Sunday. So we have chances for rain, but turning much more comfortable as we head into next week. Here's our pet walk forecast. Oh, Julia in Arena taking a little break with the toys. Maybe an inside play day this morning, but I think you'll be able to be outside for a walk this afternoon.
Get in that nap today. All right, thank you very much, Addie.
You're welcome.
Stay with us for the morning sprint up next. 6:53, time for the morning sprint as our team gives you more local news than anybody else.
We start with an update to breaking news overnight. A farmer outside Belleville is out thousands of dollars in farm equipment and around 200 bales of hay after a fire early this morning. Someone driving by called it in just after midnight along County Highway A. Investigators are still working to find out the cause of that fire, but they say it is not suspicious. No one was injured.
A family on Madison's west side is waking up somewhere other than their home this morning after an overnight apartment fire. The call for that fire came in just before 10 o'clock on Russet Road near the Madison Public Library's Meadow Ridge location. The family's unit was the only one affected by that fire. No word yet on the extent of the damage.
And we have a flash flood warning now for parts of Grant County until 11:45 this morning. Some very heavy rain rates in excess of 3 inches an hour falling right now across parts of Grant County. Here's a wider view for all of southern Wisconsin. These showers and thunderstorms will eventually work their way into the Madison area. Plan on that chance for rain through at least midday today. Otherwise warm and humid with a high of 80 degrees.
Middleton police officers were the first to respond to the workplace shooting at Paradigm 1 year ago today. And right now, Chief Chuck Folk is calling on lawmakers to take action. He exclusively talked to us here on News 3 Now this morning about the need for common sense gun reform, like universal background checks and closing the gun show loophole. He said shootings have become the new normal and said that is simply unacceptable. Still, he remains proud of how his officers responded that day. In the years since, his team has traveled the state training other local departments. We will have team coverage 1 year since the Paradigm workplace shooting all day long here on News 3 Now.
Thank you very much, Christina. The Wisconsin Coalition for Gun Safety rallied on the steps of the Capitol yesterday to call for stricter gun laws. There are a few proposals working through the state legislature, including one that would require universal background checks. Those that spoke in support of the bill say the laws need to change, while opponents say there instead should be a focus on mental health.
Loved ones say they'll continue to seek justice in a deadly police shooting in Racine County. This after a Mount Pleasant police sergeant will not face charges for the death of 18-year-old Tyrese West. Hundreds of ralliers stood on the steps of the Racine County Courthouse yesterday demanding justice for West's family. They say there's still plan to take that case to federal court.
There is a powerful new public service announcement out this morning, produced by the families of students killed at Sandy Hook Elementary. It starts out like any other back-to-school commercial until shots ring out and children start running. The people behind the ad say the PSA is separate from politics and that keeping kids safe is not a partisan issue.
U.S. hostage negotiator Robert O'Brien will be President Trump's new national security advisor. This comes a week after the president fired John Bolton, citing disagreements on multiple issues. O'Brien was sent by Trump to help free U.S. rapper A$AP Rocky from a Swedish prison earlier this year.
CBS News is reporting this morning the attack on Saudi Arabia's oil facilities was approved by Iran's supreme leader, but only on the condition that it be carried out in a way where Iran could deny involvement. President Trump says he is planning on putting new sanctions on Iran. So far, though, he has not committed to a military response. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called the attack an act of war by Iran.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is apologizing for a yearbook photo showing him wearing brown face makeup at a costume party in 2001. Time magazine posted the photo saying it was published in the yearbook from a private school in British Columbia where Trudeau worked as a teacher before entering politics. Trudeau said the photo of him was taken at the school's annual dinner, which he said had an Arabian Nights theme.
All right, 6:57 now. Let's turn it over to Jason Stone with a look at your first alert traffic. Hi, Jason.
Hello. The westbound Beltline has brake lights starting at Stoughton Road to West Broadway. Elsewhere, moving at the posted speed limit. And no major issues on John Nolan, just some short lines at the intersections. With your first alert traffic, I am Jason Stone.
Thank you, Jason.
And it has been pretty quiet so far this morning here in the Madison area, but there is plenty of rain to the west. Our forecast today calls for the potential for some showers and thunderstorms to continue to track slowly south and east across the area. Heaviest rain, though, will definitely be west of Dane County. Our forecast has highs right around 80 with humid conditions again this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Hattie, and thanks so much for joining us this Thursday morning.
CBS This Morning is next. Stay with News 3 Now for continuing coverage of the 1-year anniversary of the Middleton workplace shooting.